Welcome to Greenhouse Grower to Grower, the podcast where we talk to growers from across the greenhouse industry about market trends, innovation, their biggest challenges and opportunities, and more. I'm Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower.
Hey everyone, we are trying something different for this week's episode of the Greenhouse Grower to Grower podcast. We're actually doing a co-podcast with another one of Meister's brands, CEAg Talks. So right now it's myself, Brian Sparks, editor of Greenhouse Grower, and I'm joined by Kristin Zeit, who's the content lead for CEAg World.
Hi Brian.
Hello.
This is
So
very cool.
I have to ask you first, so we're doing this live from Cultivate. Your first impression when you walked in the doors for Cultivate, what did you think?
It's big. There's a lot of people here. Everybody's, the energy seems really good. There's a lot to see. I'm really excited to kind of walk around and really start meeting people and hearing what the buzz is.
Oh yeah. Well, in a show like this, there's literally so much to see here, but one of the reasons that we wanted to have this conversation here is because, while the floriculture and the CEA industries, there's obviously a lot of specific things that those industries focus on. The production of plants is different. There's also a lot of similarities between these industries, a lot of common concerns that growers and others in the industry deal with. So we thought, with both of our brands having these platforms, why not have this conversation at an event like this? So that's kind of why we're here. So just to give our listeners a little bit of background too. So Greenhouse Grower as a brand has been around for a little over 40 years. Its focus for the most part has been on floriculture. A few years back, we expanded to include all crops grown in a controlled environment. So that included, in addition to floriculture, cannabis as well as greenhouse vegetables. In the years since then, we've seen rapid growth in the CEA market to the point where it became necessary to really create a standalone brand based on that. And unlike some of the other long-standing Meister brands, it didn't launch as a print magazine. It's a digital format with an important event tied to it. So that's kind of the origins of CEAg World. Kristin, you joined the team, in the past year,
Yep.
And you've kind of jumped right in. So can you kind of talk about, where you see the brand in the market today and kind of what your own role is?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's just over a year since CEAg World launched. I joined as content lead just in January 2025, so it's been about 6 months now. I oversee all the content that we produce for the CEAg World website. We're posting news and interviews, trend overviews, product and research briefs, pretty much anything relating to CEA produce production.
Okay.
And we're doing that pretty much on a daily basis. That's kind of the role. Some of it we write ourselves, myself and my wonderful colleague Dana Shagru. Some is shared content from sister brands like you guys and American Vegetable Grower. And some is exclusive content that's contributed by industry experts, growers, and academics in the field.
Yeah.
So our focus is the growing of produce, like you said. This market has absolutely exploded, as you know, in the past few years. So we don't cover floriculture, we don't cover cannabis. Everything we do is geared towards commercial CEA growers producing food. Right now we're focused mostly on North America, but the plan is as we continue to grow and as we get established, we really want to expand that coverage globally.
Okay.
So we distribute that content through 2 weekly newsletters. One is focused on greenhouse produce, one is focused on vertical farming. And then we have 4 in-depth industry reports that are essentially single topic magazines that are created in print and available for download. Okay. And then again, like you mentioned, we have our CEAg Talks video series, which we've been doing. Those come out every couple of weeks, talking one-on-one with all kinds of people in the CEA world.
Okay, and I love those. Those are great conversations to just have direct with people about, and again, the common issues that affect everybody. While each operation has their own challenges, there's so many issues that cross not just the CEA market, but then getting into floriculture as well.
Right.
There are a lot of common issues. Yep. I did want to ask you specifically about some of the components, initiatives that CEAg World is offering. One is the second annual conference that's coming up here, if you want to talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. So the CEAg World Conference and Expo is really the kind of the cornerstone of the brand. This is our second annual event, like you said. This one's going to be November 19th through 21st. It's in Durham, North Carolina. Okay. And the conference team has really put together an incredible lineup of sessions and keynotes and all of that. Okay. In fact, we're actually going to be posting the program to the website so that everyone can see what it is, hopefully very soon. So I'm really excited to get that out there to everybody. Yeah. The best part is that this year and going forward, the growers attend for free. Okay. So that's that that we hope will get everybody there and,
Very nice.
and back together. I'm very excited to attend that this year.
Okay.
We also have a couple of other initiatives that I'd love to chat
Yeah,
about.
yeah.
Another one is that we're in our second year of partnering with consulting firm Agritecture on the global CEA census. So this is underway right now. It's a comprehensive survey of CEA growers and professionals worldwide.
Sure.
This year we're focusing on the question of what it takes to run an economically viable, future-ready CEA business today.
Great.
So the questions are all kind of geared towards that, as well as some on the perspective of AI and how that's affecting CEA businesses. So, anyone listening who has any sort of stake in CEA produce, whether you're a grower or supplier or a researcher, we hope you'll go to the resources tab on the CEAg World website where you can take that survey and really help shape that data.
Yeah, well, in an industry like this that continues to emerge very quickly, that data has to be so valuable. Because everybody asks questions: where is this market going? How is it getting there? What are the size of the companies within this market?
That's right.
I mean, that data has got to be critical to where this industry goes going forward.
Absolutely, and things are changing so much year over year that really having that annual look at that and really getting all that.
Yeah.
Creating those kind of benchmarks is just huge for this industry.
Sure.
So that's really big. And then another initiative I'd love to mention, if you don't mind, we've just launched our CEAg World Impact Awards.
Okay.
So we're following in the footprints of our well-respected brand's Greenhouse Grower, your Medal of Excellence program, with our own awards that are for the true innovators and leaders in the CEA space today.
Okay.
So those nominations are open now until August 7th. We'll be announcing the winners at our conference in November and doing lots of coverage before and after the show. So again, if you know any CEA produce rock stars, help us put the spotlight on them and nominate them at the CEAg World website.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, I mean, just as a whole, Meister has a long history with awards programs. So the fact that we're able to continue that through CEAg World as well is great. And it's a chance to, there's so many things happening in the industry. It's nice to take a step back sometimes and recognize the companies and the people who are behind all of that great effort, all those great efforts.
Absolutely, and so especially in the CEA space, so much of this is there's brand new stuff coming out all the time, like all these really cool innovations in not just technology, but the research around it too. There's so much that's going on, and really wanting to put that spotlight on the people who are making that happen, people who are really focused on innovation.
Sure.
So thank you for letting me go on about that. I'll stop talking for a minute.
Oh no, I'd love to talk more about this. And just to kind of follow up on that, we should continue to have these types of conversations coming out of the conference. What were some of the highlights that you saw? Once this year's census is ready to go, talk more about that. So definitely like to keep this conversation going.
Yeah, for sure. We'd love that. I know you guys are having a really busy year as well.
Oh
yeah, I'd love to chat a little bit about your top 100 survey and what you've kind of learned there. What are some of the takeaways there?
Yeah, the top 100 survey is interesting because we've been doing that on Greenhouse Grower for several years now. Essentially what it is it's a survey of our entire audience that we do through SurveyMonkey, and the heart of it is the top 100 list that we put together, which is based on square footage of controlled environment floriculture production. So that's where the survey and the list starts. Definitely doesn't end there though. So the top 100 survey also asked a lot of questions on anything from what are your labor concerns and how do you source labor right now? What are some of the biggest challenges you face, both from a production standpoint and from a business standpoint as well? Technology trends, where are you investing in technology? Transportation concerns. And then we also look, as certain things come up seasonally. A couple of years ago, for example, supply chain was a major issue coming out of the pandemic. So we talked a lot about, what are your biggest challenges right now? This year's survey, because we put it together early in the year, we released it or sent it out before issues about tariffs, for example, were coming up. So that's something we're going to jump into next year, because we've already heard from a lot of our top 100 growers who are trying to make decisions on when do I buy, where do I buy from, because it's when you've got, frankly, tariff situations that can change not just day to day, but hour to hour sometimes. Trying to make those decisions for next year is challenging. So I think as we look towards next year, that's what we're going to be looking at. The top 100 report itself came out in our May issue of Greenhouse Grower. We're at Cultivate, so if you if you walk the show floor of Cultivate, you'd be able to pick up a copy there. And then we also release other results from the survey over the course of the year. So again, lots of information to unpack there.
Yeah.
Every few years, we also do a historical analysis. So in fact, I think it's still available on our website now. If you go to greenhousegrower.com under the Top 100 tab, you can find last year's survey, which was a look at from 2020 through 2024, how the industry evolved. Obviously, there was massive change from year to year, so keeping track of what that means for technology, investment, labor, all those sorts of things, that can all be found in that report that we did.
Terrific. So yeah, between the research that you're doing and that we're doing, we're really in a good spot to be able to put together a great spotlight on the greenhouse industry as a whole and what's happening and how it's changing year to year.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. And it is really, the top 100 they make up a huge bulk of production. So to kind of see how they're driving what's happening in the industry, even if you look at the list itself, it's a top 100 list, but the growers on the 90 to 100 range of that list are still a fraction of the size of the top 10. So even within that list itself, there's a lot of differences.
Yeah.
So that's a market that we really try and tap into a lot and continue to try and learn from. And I think we try and learn not from them, but then also give them information that they can use for their own businesses as well. So it's been a long time project for Greenhouse Grower, and I look forward to putting it together every year.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So, and then we've got an event coming up that really affects both of us, the Greenhouse Connect event, which again is for floriculture as well as CEAg. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we've been doing the Connect for several years now. It's an invitation-only event where we match up large growing operations with industry suppliers over a 2-day period. So once we start the process of recruiting growers, recruiting suppliers, we do an analysis of each operation. We dig into the details, where your business is now, what are your most critical needs now. As you look into the future, where are you looking to add, whether it's technology, whether it's you're looking to upgrade your crop protection program and shift more into biological controls, for example. Lighting issues, and anything that goes into greenhouse production and running the business as a whole. So for the growers, we go through that whole process. Then we work to match up growers with suppliers who are coming to the event based on those needs. And it all comes together in an event that this year is taking place outside of Charleston, South Carolina, excuse me. And again, so we match up growers and suppliers together for that event. It's 2 days of one-on-one meetings, take about an hour for each meeting. Private meetings, everybody comes in there all set, ready to go. There's not, the hey, how are you? And introducing yourself. That part's already been taken care of. So you can get down to business right away and talk about some of those needs.
I will say, so I'm really excited about going to this year's Greenhouse Connect.
Yeah.
As you have, Brian and I have both been the ones kind of talking to the growers that are coming to the event, getting all that information on what it is that they need.
Yeah.
I'm so impressed by the level by the depth there in terms of really getting to know and understand these growers and what they need and what they're looking for to make sure that the suppliers that we're matching them up with the suppliers that they need to meet. So it feels so purposeful and so personal.
Yeah.
I think that's great. I've been to matchmaking events in the past in different industries. This one seems to go the extra mile, so I'm really, really excited to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, and full credit to our team behind the scenes that works together to put together an event like this. And as we talked at the beginning of the conversation about common issues across our markets, we do bring both floriculture operations and greenhouse vegetable operations to this event. Another component to it is prior to those 2 days of meetings that we talked about, there is a grower-only roundtable where growers can get together for a couple of hours and just talk about issues that are common across each of their operations. And I've led some of those conversations, and you'd be surprised at some of the solutions that come up for growers who, in any other case, would never have the chance to network with each other at all.
It's so valuable.
Oh yeah, it's quite an event. So if you haven't heard from us yet from our team, you definitely will be soon. You can also go to greenhouseconnect.com to learn more about the event.
And that's in, what are the dates for that?
That is, I don't have them right in front of me, but it's around mid-October. I want to say it's around the 22nd to the 25th, somewhere in that area. Okay. But again, check the website for specific details on that.
Okay, great. Yeah, exciting.
Yeah. As we said at the beginning, we wanted to talk through some of the common market concerns, challenges and opportunities, I'd say, that exist in this market right now. So, Kristin and I, we're going to kind of go back and forth on some of that. So, I know I want to start with, one of the big issues right now is tariffs, which we talked about a little bit already. I just actually got out of the Monday morning State of the Industry keynote presentation, and Dr. Charlie Hall, who's Texas A&M's chief economist, also for American Hort, was talking about, and it's really just kind of a wait and see approach right now.
Exactly.
So, we get it that we've talked to growers who have said this does make planning for next year very challenging when you don't know what the policies are going to be, and so as a result, you're trying to figure out when should I be spending money, where should I be spending it, do I need to have backup suppliers in place? So we'll definitely be monitoring that situation very closely, but it's an issue that's driving a lot of what's happening now in the industry.
For sure, and I don't, we, like I said, we focus on North America, so we're kind of talking with Canadian growers as well a lot, and kind of getting the Canadian perspective as well as the United States.
Yeah.
It's so tricky, and even for suppliers who are, those suppliers who maybe from overseas who are considering coming into this market, it's really wait and see. It's all just, we got to see how this all plays out. Like you said, it changes hour to hour. It's just, we just feel kind of stuck.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, and what's interesting too is, I give credit to the businesses and business owners that I talk to, because if you talk to Ben Winger, for example, of Metro Line of Greenhouses, his big focus is on focus what you can control. There's so many external factors that you can work with organizations like American Hort to hopefully influence, but at the bottom line, there are certain things you can control and certain things you can't control. So focus on what you have the most control over that has the biggest impact in your business. So this is just one example of those.
No, that's great. That's great advice for all of us.
Yeah. We know another issue that's common across several industries is costs. And a lot of it has to do with energy costs too. So I know, Kristin, you focus on that a lot through CEAg World. Yeah,
so I mean, obviously energy costs, I believe that's the number one cost for CEA operators.
Sure.
Natural resources like water, growing media, nutrients, those are always top of mind. So it's all about efficiency, it's all about sustainability, looking for renewable options that are cost effective, and then looking at the technologies that are happening around all of these things. So like there's waste heat recovery is a big one for use in greenhouses, water recirculation systems, alternate fuels for heating and cooling like wood biomass and other areas there. So everyone's paying attention to that. That's just a constant thing that everyone is kind of trying to figure out. How can we get those costs down? How can we manage those and be more sustainable and serve the business as well?
Oh yeah, and it's good that companies in this industry are being very proactive about it too. I mean, we saw what was happening in some instances overseas in the past couple of years, where frankly companies were having to shut down because the costs were just skyrocketing to the point where it didn't make financial sense for them to be in business anymore, or at least to pause operations until they could sort through some issues. So.
Yeah. I love talking to companies that are doing interesting things, and the ones that are getting into the wood biomass, for instance. I think that's really interesting. And the way that with those companies who are looking to work with data centers to co-locate with data centers in order to kind of manage that whole process with the heat and AC. All of that is just fascinating to see how it develops, and then getting the costs down. The key to anything really for all of these businesses.
And that goes back to the cost. You control what you can control in that area.
Yeah, exactly. You do what you can.
Yeah.
And then another issue that I think is also affecting both of us is kind of the consolidation and mergers and acquisitions that are happening.
And I know it's different to a certain extent in both of our industries. We've seen in the past couple of years, I go back to the data that we collect from our top 100 survey. And we coming out of the pandemic, we saw most operations in terms of size stay about the same. But a lot of them told us, watch for 2024, 2025. I think they were looking to see how supply chain issues and how everything was going to shake out. Were the consumers that we gained during the pandemic going to stick around?
Right.
And then what they were telling us was, if this stays the way we think it's going to be, we're going to be hopefully making some major investments in expanding our size.
Yep.
And I think we started to see that play out over the course of the past couple of years. The average size of a lot of the growers on our top 100 list did grow over the past couple of years. What really stood out to us, on the other hand, these past couple of years, we saw a large number of operations, long-time family-run companies in the floriculture industry shutting down. A lot of reasons went into that. One of the biggest ones is the lack of having a firm succession plan in place.
Yeah.
Again, these are family-run companies, so what happens when the owner wants to retire, or for, God forbid, has to retire for a health reason, for example? If they don't have a plan in place, if there's nobody from the next generation to take over, what do they do? So we saw too many companies fall out of this industry. So, it's a challenge if you're not prepared for that. It's very easy to put a conversation like that on the back burner, focus more on your day-to-day. But you've seen what happens when you don't have that conversation. We've partnered a lot with an organization called Pivot Point Solutions. They put together a succession plan survey over the past couple of years. In fact, earlier this week at the conference, they covered the results from the second annual survey. They surveyed the industry asking about how prepared you are. Is your company too owner-centric, for example? Because when it is, that makes it that much harder to be able to pass things down to whoever. And it's not always about passing it down to the next generation either. It's setting your business up really as soon as you take over the business for whoever is going to be leading it next.
Right.
Or we've started to see more of as well is they're called ESOPs, employee stock ownership programs, where the business becomes owned by the team instead of just by one individual person. So those are all exit strategies that make sense, and hopefully more companies will take a hard look at that as they start to plan ahead. When I talk to people at Cultivate here, one of the things that I see is you can be walking towards two different educational sessions.
Yep.
One room might be about the latest new technology. One room is going to be about a succession plan. And that technology room is going to be full because, let's face it, growers like to see the latest new technology that's out there. But if you don't have that succession plan conversation, any of the new technology is not going to mean anything.
Right. I mean, those are hard conversations to have. They're not the fun conversations to have, but you need to do it. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. And we've seen similar things, not necessarily with succession planning, but as the CEA industry continues to evolve, how some of those companies shake out has been something really interesting to follow as well.
Yeah. When you talk about the growth on your side, on the CEA side, it's been a roller coaster.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of consolidation, a lot of mergers and acquisitions, and that's on the greenhouse side as well as the vertical farming side, especially on the vertical farming side. That particular sector has really crashed to earth after an extraordinary period of investment in the early 2020s. A lot of businesses went under, some really high-profile ones, but now you are starting to see kind of the few that are kind of rising to the top, the ones that are succeeding. They're like 80 Acres Farms in Cincinnati. They're a kind of a rare success story on the vertical farming side, but this year they've acquired 3 U.S. farms from Calera, allowing them to expand their footprint beyond the Midwest. And they also acquired a biotech company in Israel, which will help them accelerate their in-house plant breeding, which is a huge thing with a lot of these CEA companies, that kind of having their own proprietary products that they're breeding. On the greenhouse side, Mucci Farms, which itself is owned by Cox Farms. Mucci acquired Hacienda North Farms and Green Hill Produce both in Ontario last year. And that makes Cox Farms the largest greenhouse acreage than anyone in North America. Other acquisitions are targeting adjacent products, like you'll have salad dressings or technology automation companies. And these kinds of activities are really only going to continue in the CEA sector.
What's interesting about these, I think a lot of it comes down to, at the heart, they're still a growing operation. So like when I used to talk to companies in this industry, I would ask the question, are you a grower that uses and invests in technology, or are you a technology company that happens to be growing? And as you look towards which companies are going to, stick around in this industry, I think the answer to that question gives you the answer to whether or not they're going to stick around.
There's so much, you're totally seeing that shift. It's huge to you got to be a grower first. You've got to take that grower perspective. The technology is a tool. to help you do the growing, to help you get that business going. So
Yeah.
it's just a matter of keeping that focus and making sure you have that expertise,
Sure.
building that expertise, and remembering that that's the goal.
Oh yeah.
That's the goal.
Yeah.
So yeah, it has been really interesting to see how that perspective has shifted and the souring of that sort of,
Yeah.
the Silicon Valley, tech first approach. There are still plenty of companies that have that approach
Yeah.
and still really believe in that approach, and if they can make it work, fantastic.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really interesting to see that shift.
Well, and speaking of that technology, so as I've walked the show floor and been in some of the meetings here at Cultivate, AI has been a big topic.
Absolutely.
And I know, honestly, a lot of that starts with CEA. So
Yep.
what are you seeing in terms of trends, not just for AI, but for technology in general?
Yeah,
in that
well,
market?
well, on the AI side, these AI-powered systems developing for crop monitoring, predictive maintenance, optimizing growing conditions.
Sure.
It all really started with seeding and harvesting.
Okay.
But now automation is expanding rapidly into tasks like pruning, pest management,
Yeah.
quality control. All of this is in the works. It's all growing really fast.
Sure.
It's all about automation. It's all about efficiency.
Yeah.
Whatever can be done to make things more efficient and to kind of, to take care, to work with the shortage in labor. To kind of take care of that, so that some of the stuff you can take care of the automation pieces, so that
Right.
your staff and the growers can really focus on the more important things where you need that human touch, where you need
Yeah,
that kind of human
yeah.
involvement. So again, like I said before though, all this technology is being developed, all these AI controls and all of these things kind of trying to centralize as well,
Yeah.
creating these control systems so that a grower can work off-site and manage everything that's happening in the greenhouses and
Sure.
really have a good sense of how all the plants are doing and how everything's developing. But again, it's a matter of pricing. You've
Yeah.
got to, it's all brand new stuff. As this technology, we want to get this technology into the hands of these smaller and mid-sized growers,
Right.
So that they can grow and flourish as well. So we don't have just like three giant companies that are the vertical farmers and the big greenhouse companies as well. You want to make sure that we can get the technology into the hands of those smaller growers as well. So,
Yeah.
but I think this speaks to kind of you mentioned this as well. This kind of what you can control.
Right.
And so kind of the focus with small and mid-sized growers, making sure that they're looking at technology as a tool.
Right.
What do they need? You want, like you said, you want all this technology, you want all this new stuff, but really looking at what your goals are as a grower, looking at what your specific plan is.
Mm-hmm.
What technology do you actually need, and how do you implement that in a smart, sustainable way for your business?
And a smart way to get buy-in from your team as well. I was in a talk a couple days ago where one of the focuses was AI is not there to replace or take away the team that you have.
Mm-hmm.
It's there to make your company better and to make your team be able to work better and take away the monotonous day-to-day tasks that build up in your to-do list that prevent you from getting some of the more strategic decisions and processes taking place.
Yeah.
So, and that's kind of where AI can be the best resource for all these companies.
For sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
We wanted to talk a little bit more as well about what's happening with consumer trends in this market.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, coming out of the pandemic in floriculture, we saw a massive wave of new gardeners, and so the question was, are these gardeners going to stick around? Because we've seen ebbs and flows with that in past years. I think the good news is, and again, just coming out of Dr. Charlie Hall's economic report, one of his major points was that the consumers that we gain, for the most part, are sticking around.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how they shop, where they shop, there's differences there, but I think that's going to lead to some long-term success for the industry. Again, I think it goes back to how they shop. So, today's consumers going to be using e-commerce much more. So if you don't have that somewhere on your radar, if you're not using it already, is going to be important. Keeping track of the types of plants consumers are looking for. We've seen houseplants and tropicals and foliage plants emerge quite a bit over the past couple of years. Edibles, and just really being able to, consumers want to get back into the garden, and even if they're not, planting a whole garden, the idea of of rooftop pots and porch pots that you can just grow a small plant right on your porch if you're in an apartment where you don't have the space to put in a whole garden.
Right.
The best growers in this industry are keeping track of that at all times so that they can respond to what consumers are looking for very quickly.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you're seeing some of that in the CEA market as well. Or...
Well, so same sort of thing with the pandemic. It created a whole interest, an interest and a need for locally grown produce, and kind of more of an interest there, and people really taking much more of an interest in wellness and the way the whole wellness trend has kind of developed. All of those things, it was the same sort of thing, like wondering as we come out of the pandemic, is that going to continue? And it seems to have continued. People are definitely interested in that kind of locally grown. And the whole promise of CEA is the ability to bring food production into areas that might otherwise not be able to grow healthy food. So that's not going away.
Yeah.
I mean, that's only going to get worse. That with climate change, with population centers, and with the way things are going in the world, there's going to be a need to bring produce growing capabilities into areas that don't otherwise have access to it.
Sure.
Whether that's through greenhouses, whether that's through vertical farm, complete indoor farming. All of those things are kind of playing out right now. In terms of like the types of produce that we're seeing, leafy greens, tomatoes, those are the big ones in CEA. Herbs. There's more and more mushrooms. Mushrooms are another one and there's a lot of growth in the mushroom industry too for specialty mushrooms.
Sure.
But as well, strawberries. A lot of research going on in strawberries. Microgreens is becoming a very big industry in North America. Specifically in North America right now, and I talked to Paul Salou of Little Leaf Farms, and he was talking about the potential he sees for microgreens beyond North America, kind of really.
Yeah.
But so there's a lot of focus on looking at different crops that may be able to be grown indoors. There's so many different factors that you have to take into consideration. Yeah. But berries, really, because of the whole economics of it, it's expensive to grow in these environments. So really kind of there's a lot of effort and a lot of focus on higher value crops, shorter turnaround crops that they can, so there's tons of research being done to the different types of crops that they're going to be able to do. And we'll get there. It's just a matter of time.
I had a conversation a couple of years ago with a grower in this market, and I was asking the question, if you're one of those mid-sized growers trying to find the right market presence for yourself. Yeah. The first thing he said was, you can grow almost any crop in a greenhouse. So the potential for growing something indoors is enormous. His best advice was focus on what you can grow best, but nobody else is doing, and find a market for it. If you can be that unique producer, and if you have a market for that, that's going to give you the success that you need, hopefully.
Yeah.
As long as you're smart about it.
And we're also hearing a lot now, kind of conversely, look in your region. What's the need? What are people clamoring for? Yeah. And then is that something you can supply for them? Kind of, making sure, putting the focus there and making sure that, maybe you can create that. Maybe there already is a market, and how can you serve that market?
Yeah, absolutely.
So there's a lot of potential there.
Oh yeah.
It's exciting to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think as we start to wind the conversation down, where we started at the beginning of this conversation was almost going back to the basics, and with all the external forces shaping the market today, controlling what you can control. Yeah. Work with organizations like American Hort to partner with them and get your voice out there. That was a big message in this morning's keynote, was about advocacy in this industry, having to tell your story. Because if you don't tell your story about where your needs are in this area, somebody else will, and they might have a completely different story to tell. Yeah. If that's the only voice that somebody who's a lawmaker in Capitol Hill, for example, is going to be hearing from, your story's not going to be heard, and you're not going to get what you want to get out of it. So, have those conversations. You don't have to go to Washington, D.C. to have these conversations. You can invite lawmakers to your facilities. One of the points made this morning was, there's so few people who are employed in horticulture and floriculture. They just don't know how this industry operates sometimes. So that's why you need to bring the lawmakers to your farms, to your growing operations, to see the ins and outs, and to really get a good understanding of it.
Yeah. In CEA, there's a lot of conversation around transparency, and really trying to get companies to share what it is they're doing, what they're doing wrong, because again, it's such a developing industry.
Yeah.
There's so much change that's happening and so much we're learning. It's all kind of happening in real time. So this call for transparency is really big, and it's like you said, a lot of people are very proprietary, don't want to, they're afraid they're going to share the secret sauce and then they're going to create all this competition.
Yeah.
Then when you get the growers together and get them in a conversation and kind of talking through the problems, you can see the relief and the sharing of knowledge. Like it turns out, once you get in those situations, they want to have those conversations. They want to share best practices because the whole industry is better for it when you do that. We all succeed together. So yes, really, that is something I think your brand and my brand definitely has in common, is encouraging that sort of sharing of the stories, sharing of the good, the bad, next steps, all of it, and working together as an industry to think about the industry as a whole, because that's only going to help everyone.
I think the bad that you mentioned there can sometimes be the most interesting conversation, because we can all talk about what worked well, but when we learn from the mistakes we do make, that's knowledge that you can learn not just for yourself, but that you can then pass on to somebody else.
Yes.
Not every challenge is going to be the same. Not every solution to every mistake is going to be the same either. So
right.
Again, that's why we wanted to have this conversation in the first place.
Yeah.
There's so many common issues that growers of any type face, and again, we want to keep having a conversation like this, give each of our audiences a chance to learn from each other. So I'm really glad we were able to get together at an event like Cultivate. As we're sitting here, we're actually sitting at the Greenhouse Grower booth right now, watching a lot of the traffic go by. Again, I've been here since Friday night. It's been a great show for me, Kristin. I know you'll spend the whole day here making a lot of connections, and it's a great show, and I'm glad that you were able to join us here for this.
I'm really happy to be here. It's great to talk to you, and I look forward to doing this again.
And again, for anybody listening, if you want more about each of our brands, each of our programs or initiatives, greenhousegrower.com and then CEAgworld.com. And also, we're obviously on all of the various social media platforms as well, so feel free to reach out. Contact Kristin or I directly if you have a specific question, and we'd love to hear from you.
Great. Thanks, Brian.
Thank you.
Thanks for joining us. You can learn more at greenhousegrower.com. Please subscribe to this podcast wherever you listen, and please leave us a rating, as it helps other podcast listeners find the show.